Have you ever had a painful season or story in your life? Well, you're not alone. Today, we're doing a two-part series of stories from pain to purpose. We've had some amazing guests on the podcast, and we're going to take clips from three of those guests regarding their story of pain and how that story of overcoming that pain is really a key theme to their message that they share and how they help others today. We're going to hear from Terri Cole, therapist and author of Boundary Boss and the book Too Much. And if you want to hear more of her episodes, it's episode 48 and 49. Next, we're going to hear from Eric Gilbert. He is a mental health coach, founder of Courageous Calling and Rising Calm Center, and he specializes on men and anxiety and has a lot of great things to share with us. And lastly, today we're going to hear from Susan Scott, author of Fierce Conversations, Fierce Leadership, and Fierce Love. And for more information on that one, the full episode, you could listen to episode 95 and 96. So here we go, from pain to purpose. Let's get started. So welcome, Terri Cole. I'm so glad you could be here.
Well, thanks, Terri Wolf. I'm so happy to be here with you.
Yes, great. Well, Terri, I always want to talk about how you got into this and how you mentioned that you went from a boundary disaster to a boundary master and how that's inspired your work. So give us the cliff notes.
Well, Clip Notes is this. Nobody teaches us how to draw boundaries. So I was like everyone else who was raised to be a good girl. Turn that frown around. If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. So most of us were taught that. So in my young life, I was really a people pleaser, looking for a lot of external validation. And it's funny, I didn't realize, I really thought when I started therapy, got into therapy in my 20s, I really thought it was everybody else. I was like, if those people would just get it together, everything would be fine. And of course, my therapist was eventually like, let me see, what is the common denominator in all of these situations? That would be you. So I learned that I even could draw boundaries by being in therapy. I didn't even know that was a possibility. I really thought it was all about going along to get along. And I was so caught up in wanting to be perceived as nice. I didn't want anyone to be mad. I didn't want anyone to be upset. And so I realized in my own career, once I became a psychotherapist, that obviously it wasn't just me who had those experiences. Then every one of my clients, no matter what their presenting problem was, they would eventually, we would just follow the dots backwards to the fact that they had no idea how to establish and enforce healthy boundaries in their relationships. So they were exhausted, they were burnt out, they were angry, they were overgiving, overfunctioning, overfeeling, doing all the things for all the people, but then feeling bitter. And I was like, oh, this is a boundary issue, and this crap is an epidemic. Like, nobody knows how to do it. So I really knew. And I didn't write this book. I've been a therapist for almost 27 years. And I actually didn't write this book until I was a therapist for over 20 years. Like, I really wanted to, A, make sure that what I had to say was valuable enough to write a book, and B, that to be able to have enough life experience and have seen the same thing over and over and over to be like, this is not an exception. This is the rule. This is how women are relating to boundaries. So that's really what happened for me, but how it then inspired me, because learning to set boundaries completely changed my life in a positive way, made me take so much more responsibility for myself, my decisions, how I feel, rather than, because when you're a boundary disaster, there's a lot of a tendency, the ability to sort of blame other people for how we're feeling. And once I really got it, like, hey, my life, my decisions, my choices, my limits. And then I decided that we didn't have any good books to teach us how to do it in a really accessible way. And so with that in mind, I started a course. I taught that course for over 5 years before writing the book. Again, to be like, what actually happens? What actually helps? What concepts do people grab onto and go, oh, this I understand? So that's how I went from being a boundary disaster to a boundary boss.
Nice work. It's really
Oh,
neat how
thanks.
you took your own experience, you grew, you recovered, and then you've helped people in that field, and now you're inspiring so many. That is really neat. So wonderful. Well, for me personally, I actually met Terri's work on her podcast. And after my 20 years of domestic abuse, I had no, I would, I had no idea the ideas of boundaries, how I could actually have wants, needs, and desires, and that was healthy. And I would thought myself as a kind person, but definitely a high functioning codependent person.
Yep.
So your work out of everything in my healing process has been really the most impactful. And your book is so well written, but easy with also you have, help with the verbiage and how to go about doing it. So it's fabulous, especially for this audience, because we focus on kind girls and what that tends to be. So that's really great.
Right.
Okay, and I'm excited about your new book coming out in October. So my last question is,
Yeah.
this podcast is all about living brighter in the world. And how do
Mm-hmm.
you've got a lot of things going on, you're living bright, but
Mm-hmm.
how do you maintain and
Mm-hmm.
nurture that brightness for yourself?
Yep. I mean, daily meditation is one way. Um, Practicing what I preach is another. So regularly having hard conversations, being truthful about what I need, how I feel, what I want, even when it's hard. And even as a boundary master, it's still hard. But being truthful is how I live brighter because it fuels me to have the people in my life actually know me, right? Actually know me. And if I'm not telling the truth, then they can't, you know?
Yeah, those are great tools to live brighter. Thanks for sharing that. So
Sure.
I have a copy. This book has been very well loved, and
Hmm.
the Boundary Workbook, woohoo, and all
Right
your good
on.
stuff. Can't wait for your new one in October. Thank you so much for your time, Terri. I so appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you so much for what you're doing in the world. I really appreciate you, Tara.
Are you feeling stuck in with love, wealth, or peace? Well, you're not alone. Often it's a subconscious belief holding you back. That's why I combined life coaching and hypnotherapy together so you can break through what's been keeping you stuck. Life coaching helps you shift your mindset while hypnotherapy works deep within to reprogram limiting beliefs and memories. It's fast, it's effective, typically one session of each, and I have a few openings left. Are you ready for a change? Visit livebrighter.info and book your free consultation and see if this approach is right for you. See you then. Welcome, Eric. I'm so happy to have you.
Thanks so much for having me, Tara. Man, what a joy to be here. How awesome to be able to do this together, huh? Technology is
Yes,
amazing.
I know it so is. I want to start with, first of all, I want to start with the quote that you use, which is healing doesn't mean you weren't hurt. It
Mhm.
means your pain no longer gets the final word. I think that's so powerful. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, sometimes we can have people in our lives that might say things to us like, oh, get over it, or that was in the past, or you need to focus on the present, those kind of things. And this is more of a both and statement. That hurt you went through, that trauma you went through is very real. Yeah, it did have an effect on you. Yeah, it changed how you perceive the world. Yeah, it even changed how your body reacts under pressure or stress now. And those emotions, those things that you thought or perceived of the world have been traumatized. It's shaken up what you thought life was really about or who you are. But at the same time, it's being able to recognize that it doesn't have the final say. It's being able to say that doesn't mean that you're stunted forever. It doesn't mean this has to be the rest of your life. I'm working, for example, with a young middle school boy right now, and he's recently been understanding more about his depression. And it's partially because his mom has understood more about her depression and the genetics behind it and everything like that. And being able to see that heaviness as he's starting to realize, oh, this is something that I might have to have to battle with day after day, week after week. But being able to say that's not the end of your story, that you're going to be able to see yourself grow. And that's why I really got focused around helping people to reset their autonomic nervous system. Because a lot of that, when we go through trauma, is also stored in our body. So being able to help make those shifts in our body and our nervous system helps to release us from those things, to be sometimes not even just the person we were before, but sometimes a person with even more depth, even more understanding, even more compassion, more empathy, because we've been through some things and we're out on the other side now.
Oh, definitely. That's great. I just feel like all of our, I call it finding the diamonds in your crops too sometimes. All of our stuff can be redeemed. And I don't think God wants to waste any of our suffering. And
Yeah.
it can all be used to help us, grow us, and then it can impact and help others. So it's pretty powerful. What led you into this pursuit of helping others suffering from anxiety? Because honestly, Eric, I have talked to my kids and asked them, like, what's your relationship with anxiety? And
Yeah.
they all struggle with some social anxiety, and it comes out different ways. One will talk a lot, one will just avoid, one will, all these different things. And then I talk to my different friends and ask, well, how do you feel about anxiety and social anxiety? And I have to say, I think everyone struggles with it to some degree. And one of the biggest things we don't realize is we're not alone. I mean, it's so important to know that we all struggle in different ways, and yet it's such a challenge in these days. So talk into what helped led you into this pursuit to help people suffering from anxiety.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Tara. And you're absolutely right. Like when you think of anxiety, it's not even necessarily a disorder in itself. Anxiety can actually cause eustress, healthy stress, that would cause us to
Yes.
take appropriate action in the situation. I started to realize in my story, as it was actually a real time of reflection for me. Um, my good friend Raphael and I were working on an idea for business partnership, being able to help people, husbands in particular, within their marriage and everything like that. And then he just sensed that God was calling him another direction towards more of the auto industry and being able to use his skill set there. And so I had this void of kind of like, okay, I thought this was what the path was going to be. And then it allowed me to also get really personal with God and say, okay, so if that's not the path, what do you have for me? And I said, God, I really would want to help people in a way that I've gone through in my own personal journey as well. And this is now around like 2018, 2019. I've already done a number of years in marriage and family therapy. I've already done a number of years of helping people with different things. And I really wanted to get selective on like, well, who are the people that really I'm designed to be called towards to help specifically? And so 2018, 2019, I get into this prayer mode and this time of reflection. I started looking over my life, even from childhood, and I started to realize, wow, when I was a kid, I had this thing called like selective mutism. I didn't really want to even talk to other people, friends, church people. I didn't even want to talk necessarily to my parents that much. The only person I wanted to talk with sometimes was my older brother. And so he would sometimes take the message from what I said and then pass that message on to my parents on my behalf. And then I started to realize, well, that anxiety kind of carried through in different ways as I got into school. And I'd feel like sometimes the spotlight was on me, and then I'd feel like the pressure of somebody was just making a joke, but I would take it very personally, and I'd be anxious that I had to do something. So as a boy, I would sometimes just get right into fight mode, where it's like, you're gonna screw with me, I'm just gonna go ahead and fight you. I
That
fought the
always
biggest
solves it.
I went ahead and just fought the biggest kid in my class at one point. He probably was about twice my size, but I'm like, I'm just going for it. I don't care, you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I actually did some counseling as a kid with my parents to help me get more in touch with those things and what was driving my anger. And then I started to see how it was showing up even as an adult, especially when I was doing marriage and family therapy and those studies, to be able to see, man, anxiety is just one of those things, even as I've really put my whole life into living wholeheartedly for God, that I still feel this struggle and this pull. And if I'm not careful, I'll just go into overthinking. I'll go into those same patterns. I'll feel the nervousness inside of me. And I really wanted to do something about that. So then I started to also through that journey when I started marriage and family therapy in 2010 to 2012. I started getting more into like a deep dive of what does it mean for me to really mature and grow in these areas and what's available. And that's kind of become just such a huge passion and something I wanted to dive deep into. And so 2018, 2019 was really the time of being able to actually bring that up to the forefront of saying, maybe Eric, it wasn't just for you, but it's for others. And of course, this is right
Mm-hmm.
before the pandemic, right? So I literally start the company Rising Calm. I get the website. I start seeing clients at the office. And 1 year later, pandemic,
Yeah,
everything
the
shut
test.
down. Yeah, for real. And then it felt like, well, God, at least you help prepare me for something where people really have a need now. And I pray that you would help me to just be able to steward this well and to be able to help them in real ways and to see a path forward out of this thing.
Yes, that's great. And especially when you speak specifically to men, I just love that. That's so important. So I always ask people this, Eric. How do you personally and intentionally support yourself to live brighter 1% at a time? What do you do for yourself?
Yeah, I love this question, and I was thinking a little bit about it, and I realize that my answer is probably simple, but it's very genuine. Is I love the passages that also talk about keeping in step with the Spirit, walking with the Spirit. So I have a tendency, this relates to my anxiety, to try to think ahead, to try to anticipate, to try to go into like, what's it all going to play out? Or sometimes we can go into the past with my mind. What's happened before? How could I have done better? Blah, blah, blah. But that's not what I'm called to do. I'm just called to stay in step with the Spirit, trusting that God's the one that's sovereign and in control of these things. So to look, when I think of being 1% better through my daily life, I just say, like, what's it look like for me to be synchronized in my steps with the Spirit? Uh, my wife is Peruvian from South America, and so we met up in Illinois, where I'm from, and she taught me to salsa dance. So if you can believe it, this gringo can actually do a little bit of dancing and knows how to do a few steps, you know? But I remember what it was like trying to learn to dance and trying to do the steps. And it's like the cool thing with dancing is even when you get really into it, more advanced, it's still about the simple steps. It's about the fundamentals. So that's the idea of my relationship with the Holy Spirit too, is I want to stay in step with the Spirit, not just get into the performance or fancy moves or just trying to make a big deal out of things. That really, it's just about the basics.
I love it. Thank you so much. So you have a download for a free devotional and a quiz at
Hmm.
havefaith.co. So please look into that. We'll also have some links to your website. And thank you so much for your time, Eric.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, the cool thing with the download and everything is it helps to look at your level of fear or anxiety and then also be able to step into faith and courage. So I love to be able to help people with their calling or being able to know more of what is it that I could be equipped to do so I can be on the front lines serving God as well.
I love it. So reach out to Eric. This has been a great conversation and make it a great day.
Yes. Thank you so much, Tara.
Our emotional cups can get full without us really even being aware of it. But when our emotional cups get full, we can react rather than respond. We can be fatigued. We can feel burdened. We have struggle with sleep. We can have physical symptoms. And that's why I have the free Barf Notebook page for you. And it's a simple process done regularly where you're barfing out your thoughts, sorting them out, and planning them out. And it's a wealth of healing in that. So go ahead and check the link and have access to that free Barf Notebook process. Live brighter every day. So welcome, Susan. I'm so happy to have you.
Thank you, Tara. I'm delighted to be here. I'm looking forward to this.
Well, I have to say, I love your books. And I will say, I recommend, there's probably two books that I read and reread, and yours is one of them, Fierce Conversations. That has impacted me on a business level, with my kids, and on a personal level. And it's meant so much. And then Fierce Love, oh, I was so excited to share this with our audience. So let's get after it.
All right.
So first of all, what in your life, because you've been doing Fierce Conversations, working with business, CEO, think tanks, what led you to transition a little bit and do a book just focusing on fierce love?
Oh, well, every December, as we're approaching the end of the year, I ask myself, is there something that when I get to the end of my life, or as a friend describes it, when my will matures, looking back, will there be anything that I didn't do that I will regret? And it kept coming up for me. You need to write Fierce Love. You really do. And I kept putting it off. And then I was with a client in Austin, Texas, and staying at their house, and got up very early, got into their swimming pool. I'm in the pool. It's beautiful. It's quiet, birds. And I asked myself, so what's the next most important thing? And again, it was write Fierce Love. And I remember sort of sinking beneath the water, blowing bubbles and saying, no. But just because I thought I was just done with the whole fierce thing. But I realized that, no, this is important, because business people all over the world know about fierce conversations, and we train some of the largest global companies out there. But if you don't work for one of those companies, you probably have never heard of fierce conversations. And so I wanted to reach everyone. And I do get emails from all over, from people who read Fierce Conversations, and they say, and I use this at home, and this is so wonderful. And I thought, well, I just want more people to know about it.
Oh, hugely impactful. And you start off by saying that the goal is to come out and be real and authentic and connect at a deeper level. Can you tell us more about that? Because it takes skill and courage. And that's something that my audience and me in particularly, because I speak to people like a little bit, a little bit back on the journey of overly kind to empowered kind, that is a challenge. Tell us more about how to be real and authentic and connect at a deeper level, and how to develop skills and courage.
Well, let me back up, Tara, if you don't mind. I want to put out some foundational ideas that everything else builds on. And I was attending a conference where a poet from Yorkshire, England, was speaking. His name is David White, and he said, the young man who's newly married is often really puzzled, even frustrated, that this lovely person with whom he hopes to spend the rest of his life insists on appearing before his face on a regular basis, wanting to talk yet again about the same thing they talked about last weekend. And he wonders, why are we having this conversation again? And he said, long about age 42, and he was 42 and married at the time, and he smiled. He said, if he's been paying attention, it dawns on him, this ongoing, robust conversation that I have been having with my wife is not about the relationship. The conversation is the relationship. And I was so struck by that, Tara. I had just left a long-term marriage, and it was hard. It was painful. Yeah. I was very sad about it, and still I was confused. What, why? That answered the question. My husband and I had not been able or willing or courageous enough to have the conversations that would have been absolutely essential. And if we'd known how to have them, we'd probably still be together. So that was huge. And if we add yet another topic to the list of things that we just don't want to talk about because it could wreck another weekend, then all of the possibilities for our relationship become smaller and smaller and smaller, until one day I realized I am making myself quite small. I am behaving as if I am just a space around my shoes. And that is just tragic. That is so tragic.
So the podcast is all about living brighter 1% at a time. What do you do personally, Susan, to I know you talk about a lot about adding joy and different things to your life, but how do you personally live brighter and bring that out in yourself on a daily, weekly, yearly basis?
Well, I start most days with a very, very brief little meditation. I mean, it probably 5-10 minutes max. But at the end of it, I ask, is there a message for me? And I'm not even sure who I'm asking, Tara, God, what, I'm just saying, is there a message for me? And often there is. Yeah, you need to so-and-so. It's like, got it, thanks. And because we don't know how we know the things we know, but we do have intuition about things if we really open ourselves to that. So that's one of the things that I do is like, is there a message for me? Yep. Okay. So today that's important for me to keep in mind. But also spending time in nature. I mean, I love to be in nature, and, in Japan, they do a lot of forest bathing, they call it. When you're in nature, everything else can fall away. We're not hearing all the stuff and all the chatter. We're just hearing nature. We're hearing the wind in the trees and the birds and the scurry of the squirrels, and hopefully not the attack of the lion, but I say that because I spend a fair amount of time in Kenya where there are lions.
Yeah.
But nature. I like to be in nature, and I love to turn off the television, turn off the radio, even turn off music. And I love music. Just let silence. Just be silent for a little while. All kinds of wonderful things will come up for you in silence that cannot access you when you are distracted with noise.
Yes.
And of course, my dogs. I love my dogs.
Yes, your dog.
We've been through a lot together.
Oh, I'm so glad. Thank you so much for your time. How can people get a hold of you or reach out to you? I know they can get your book, and how would they connect with you if they want deeper?
I probably have to say that's not going to work very well, because I do occasionally get an email from somebody, a long email saying, this is my situation, what should I do? I just don't have the time or even the interest in coaching individuals now all over the world. I just cannot do that. But it's all there in the books. It's there in the books.
Yes. Get the book, get the course. Don't you have a course too?
Well, yes. Yeah, we do. Okay. And but it's right now, eventually it's going to be available to everyone. In fact, I think later on this year. But right now, it's in companies. Companies say, we want our company to become fierce. We want this to become part of the woodwork here and how we do things. And so it's taught inside companies all over. But I think that Tara, you've taken the book and run with it, and it's made a difference for you. So I think it will for other people too. Yeah.
I agree. And look for the course that comes out. And so that'll be wonderful. But I think one final thing is I really like your advice about just say something that is real today.
Yeah.
And that is a great place for us all to start, getting honest and just saying something that's real today. So that's my encouragement. Thank you so much, Susan.
You're so welcome. Thank you for having me. I hope this has been helpful to your listeners.
Oh, super helpful. Okay, thank you.
Good.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
So just a reminder to conclude is that we are overcomers. If you're in pain now, know that you're not alone, and we can all grow 1% a day, and just make that a growth pattern. If you're alive, you're an overcomer, and just being alive, you're here today. If you're still healing, don't give up walking through that valley. Open your mind, ask the questions you need, and healing will come. If your heart is stirring about a pain and a passion that you've overcome and you want to share that with others, and you need some guidance, reach out to me for a coaching call. And today I just want to thank you for joining us. Share this episode with others, and let's all grow 1% a day. And also know that none of our lives are perfect, and we're all overcoming things all the time. So it's not like we just arrive. So just know that and make it a great day. Stay tuned for our next episode.